In the previous two lectures, we have seen how to set an array of strings and an array of objects as a source for our autocomplete widget. So in this lecture, we will see how to set a callback function as the source for our autocomplete widget. So what we are planning to implement is, as of now, when we enter a character, all the countries that contain the character anywhere in the name appears. So here when I enter A, Algeria, Cambodia, Germany, Kuwait, Nepal, Switzerland, Zimbabwe, Malaysia, Liberia and India, all these countries appear. But what I want is, when I enter a character, only country names that start with that particular character should appear. If you set the source as a list of countries, it will work like this. Even if the character appear at the beginning or anywhere in the name, that country name will appear in the list. But we want to modify it, that is, we want to customize our requirement in such a way that when we enter a character, only the country names that start with that particular character should appear in the list. Okay, so for this I am going to add a callback function as the source. So let me modify the code here. Instead of countries, I want to add a callback function. So the autocomplete widget allows you to set the source as an array, as a string and also as a callback function. So we have seen how to set the source as an array of strings as well as an array of objects, and in this lecture we are going to see how to set the source as a callback function. The callback function actually gets two arguments. They are request and response, and the request will have only one property, that is term, and the term will be the value entered in the text box or the input element. So let me first add the callback function, okay, and let me pass request and response, request comma response. Now inside this, what I am going to do is, I am going to filter the results based on the first character. So let me create another array where filter array, and we can use the map method to create a new array from the existing array after applying a particular function to all the elements in the array. So here I am going to use the map method. So $.map, and I need to first pass the array. So in our case the array is countries. This is the array we want to pass. Now the next parameter is a callback function actually, which is the function that we want to apply to all the items in this countries array. So function, and it will have two parameters, that are element and index. So in this case we need only element, okay. So we will get the element, and within this what we are going to do is, if element dot index of is a JavaScript method to get the index, and within this I am going to specify request dot term, that will be the value entered inside the text box, and I am going to convert this to capital. So to uppercase will return this value into capitals, okay. Let's also convert this to uppercase. So to uppercase, and if the index of to uppercase equals 0, then what does it mean? It means it is the first character. That is, the first character matches. In that case, we need to return the element. Return element. In the else part, we will return null. Okay. This is a bit complicated. I will explain it once again after getting the output. And now the filter array will be having the country names that start with the character entered. And next what we need to do, we need to specify it as part of response. Okay. So response of filter array. Now let's check whether we are getting the output or not. Save. Let me refresh. Let me enter A. Okay, we are not getting any output. Let's check the code. Okay, here we need to enter response. I have missed S. That is why we are not getting the output, I think. Let's check, refresh. Let me enter A. See, only Algeria appears because only Algeria has the country name that starts with A. Suppose I enter C. See, only Cambodia appears. S, Switzerland and Sweden because both start with S. W, both. E, see, Sweden only appears. So we have implemented this using callback function. So in the callback function, we will have two arguments. They are request and response. The request will have only one property, that is term, which will return the value entered by the user in the input area. And the response will be the response that will be returned. Okay. Now what we want to filter our array and display only the items that start with the characters entered. So when we enter S, only country names that start with S should appear. So here we are using a map method which is offered by JavaScript as well as jQuery to convert an array to another array. In fact, when we specify map countries a function, what will happen is this function will be applied to each item in the countries array. So here the function will have two arguments again. They are elements in the item and the index. So here we are getting the element, which means each item in the array will be returned. And then we check whether the first character matches the value entered in the text box. Suppose we enter A in small letter and the country name starts with A in capitals, right? So that is why I have converted both to uppercase. Here the element will be each item in the array. So to uppercase means all the characters will be capitalized. Then index of is a method to find the index. The index always starts from 0. So request.term means it will be the value entered by the user. So to uppercase means we are converting this as well to uppercase. And if it is the first character, the index will be 0. Suppose the user enters IN, and when it reaches at this element, that is when the element becomes India, and index of IN will be 0. Okay. So if it is 0, we want to return that element to the filter array. Else we want to return null. And finally we are attaching this filter array to response. That is how we have implemented this. Let me refresh and show you the result again. Suppose I enter K, only Kuwait appears. When I enter A, previously before implementing this one, we have been getting a long list of countries that contain the character A anywhere in the name. Now it displays only country that starts with the character A. In case of S, we have two countries, Switzerland and Sweden. When I enter W, still there are two countries, and when I enter I, only Switzerland is displayed. So this way you can customize your search by setting the value of source as a callback function.